Hello, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Coley, and welcome to Scene on the Screen, brought to you by Make It Universal and Rotten Tomatoes, where we talk movies with some of the people behind the scenes at NBC Universal. When entertainment works best, sometimes it opens a window into a world we've never imagined. Other times, it shows us a mirror image of our lives with a heightened sense of home. Today, we're going to dig into the question, what have you seen on the screen that does that? You'll hear about what it's like to discover the future generation of filmmakers, what makes a movie feel like home, and how a dancer became a film executive. We're joined today by our special guest, Michelle Momplaisir. Thank you so much for being here. Hello and welcome. Well, the first thing I should say is introduce yourself and tell folks about your role here at Universal.
So my name is Michelle Momplaisir, and I work in production and development for Focus Features, and I also help with acquisitions.
So talk a little bit more about that role for folks that are like, acquisitions, what does that mean? Are you like acquiring VHS tape and then putting it out? No, I'm kidding. So,
we're very uniquely privileged at Focus that we can pretty much come into a movie at any stage. So acquisitions runs the gamut. I think how most people think of them, it's like a finished film at a festival, which is definitely something that we do all the time.
More recently, DD
at Sundance, which is really exciting. Everyone go watch it.
Yes.
And then, of course, we can come into them before, like a pre-buy on a package, which just means, we've read a script or maybe there's a director behind it or other elements attached, and we acquire it then and then sort of help support the project, but our physical production execs aren't the ones on the ground making it, but it's equal creative responsibility.
I want to get to our questions in a moment, but I think there's also one that you also recently did that was, I think, even the more crazier aspect of that was this was a movie that was at a completely different studio, and then you guys acquired it because like they moved it, and that's with Bike Riders. Like I think that is a different example of like how you guys get movies. It's kind of outside of even the norm.
Totally.
It's kind of cool that you guys get Jeff Nichols with this film that like you get to see it and clearly like I'm sure there's a phone call somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I guess you would call that like a private buyer's screening type acquisition where yes, it had a home and then it maybe didn't have a home.
Yeah.
And our team had watched it at Telluride, I believe, and loved it. And so we're sort of, have relationships with filmmakers on it and kept close. And so when that opportunity came, we got into it.
And worked with Jeff before because you guys worked on Loving, which is like one of my all-time favorite ones. Thank you so much, Michelle, for telling us all about your job and some of the exciting titles we should expect to see at Focus Features. Now we're going to dive into our popcorn bucket, and we're going to break out some quotes of things that you've probably seen on screen. These are going to be hopefully ones that sound familiar to you, but if not, don't worry. I'll give hints. We're all in this together. I'm not going to do the accent.
Okay.
I have one simple request. That is to have sharks with freaking laser beams attached to their heads.
I mean, that's Dr. Evil.
Thank you for not making me do that. Do you know who Dr. Evil is based off of?
No.
Lauren Michaels.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
Oh, no way.
It is. He is based off of Lauren Michaels, which I think is kind of insane when it gets.
If there are any Frau quotes in there, you have to scream them.
No. Oh my God. No. But see, there's all these are accents ones. I could do accents for all of them.
Those are clues. Do the accents.
I'm not going to know them. I told you there was accents. That's the clue. I like to look at things no one else catches. I hate the way drivers never watch the road in old American movies.
That's Amelie.
It is Amelie.
You
did so good on this. What are you talking about? This is actually one of my
took notes.
Yeah,
my favorite films.
Talk a little bit about why it is a favorite of yours, because it's also a favorite of mine, and I think it also speaks to like any woman that's sort of been in the workplace and doing things like this idea of like trying and trying to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I love Audrey's performance. I love the sort of like fun obscurity, the experience.
I like that
sort of searching for love without it actually being a love story in a way.
Yeah. It's a fairy tale is what I like about it. It's it made me think that like Montparnasse was this like magical place, and it kind of is when you get there, but you got to squint a little bit to see it. But it was definitely, I think it's like you have a love affair with France when you watch that movie.
My family's very French on both sides, and I think I credit both of my parents. They kind of touch different genres, but I feel like we grew up watching a lot of foreign film.
Oh,
a lot of French film, a lot of British stuff too, but also a lot of Asian film. My dad obviously like loved Bruce Lee.
Wow, that's so cool.
And so I don't know. It just takes me back to my childhood in a way, even if we probably watched it earlier than we should have.
Since your dad is such a Bruce Lee fan, and granted, this is not Focus, it's Universal, are you going to encourage him to see Monkey Man? Because apparently,
of course,
I mean, like, he's got to stop down for that one.
Yeah, of course.
This is another one. This is a good one. Okay. I'm not going to do this accent either. These are all accented movies, I might add. You have bewitched me.
Oh, I
Body
know
and soul. Yes.
And I love you. That is obviously Pride and Prejudice. But it's not Jane Austen, so credit to Deborah.
No.
Perfect movie.
Perfect movie. Joe Wright. Also, like, let's look at Matthew McFadden. Like, we knew back then, but like now the world has seen him with success.
I'll admit, I didn't like him as Darcy back then.
Really?
Yeah, middle school me was not attracted.
What? What, girl?
Obviously really appreciate it, and I think it's all perfect. But Journey, Succession is brilliant.
No, I was different. I saw him in Spooks first, so I was literally like, yes, that is my Mr. Darcy. And then I was like, what are they doing to my Mr. Darcy? But I just have to say one thing. The hand clench.
Oh, yeah.
The hand clench.
Multiple times. Yeah, so good.
Okay, well, that wraps up our quote portion of...
Yeah, 100%.
I know, you did so good. I don't know why you were worried about it at all.
Okay.
We're actually going to move on to the trivia portion, but don't worry, this is actually 50-50 because they're going to be true or false. These are more films in this popcorn bucket that you've seen on screen. I'm going to ask a question, and you have to let me know true or false, and if you have expansions on why. When developing the film Young Frankenstein, Gene Wilder told Mel Brooks he would only agree to the starring role if Mel Brooks himself wasn't in the movie. True or false?
I do not know. I wish I knew. That's a great question. I don't know. I feel like Mel Brooks is in everything, though.
Yeah, but he wasn't in that one. So what would that make you think?
Is this a trick? Okay, so false.
No. Why would I trick you? Why would I
true. True. Okay.
Yes, no, actually, Gene Wilder had co-written the script with Mel Brooks, and he had a very specific idea of how he wanted the movie to turn out. Gene Wilder didn't want Mel Brooks to break the fourth wall, intentionally or not, in this movie, but Mel Brooks recorded several voice parts and portrays a German villager in one short scene. So, like, he kind of got his way, but he kind of didn't. And I could absolutely see that because Mel
movie
Brooks...
magic.
Plays to the camera. Like, think about like History of the World. It's good to be the king. Like, that's like what he's known for. I see Gene. I'm like, movie. Since we're speaking about Young Frankenstein, I feel like I have to ask. Anyone finds out we work at Universal, they always want to talk about, Universal monsters and all of our creatures. Do you have a favorite one?
I do have a favorite one.
Which one?
I think my favorite monster would be Frankenstein.
It is Frankenstein.
Yeah. Probably, I don't know. Frankenstein is so... not a monster, such a creature. And it's another movie that my parents love that they like introduced to us early, and it's just so funny because what Gene Wilder is doing in that movie is sort of generational. You know? He's like, I'm a neurosurgeon. My grandpa's crazy. But then he's like, wait a minute, my grandpa may not be crazy. And I just think it's, that's a monster that you can sort of do a million different things with, which is also really cool when you think about our work. But yeah, I got a lot of love for Frankenstein, so that's my answer.
I have a lot of love for Frankenstein. I also have a lot of love for The Mummy, mostly because of Brendan Fraser and
also the best ride in the theme park.
Yes, that's true. Rachel Weisz too, both of them. But I'm a Dracula girly, like always and forever. There's too many versions to say I love. And shout out to Blackula. Underseen, much appreciated. Telling you.
Yeah, great movie. Also, shout out to Nosferatu.
Yeah, coming out.
Christmas. It's beautiful.
I can't wait. All right, here we go.
Okay. Alexander
Payne was trying to find a Christmas movie to make when he decided to direct The Holdovers.
False. It's my understanding that of course, in like this giant awards campaign, he had to do a lot of sit downs and talked about the movie a lot and his inspiration for the movie. And I think what I have gathered, because we bought this movie finished at Toronto. We didn't make this movie. What I've gathered is that, obviously it is a Christmas movie and lives in that canon, but it wasn't set out inspirationally to be a Christmas movie.
Yeah, like he used Christmas as a plot device and then was like, why do people keep calling it a Christmas movie?
Listen, it's a genius thing.
It is a genius thing, but I
to
mean,
accidentally or intentionally do.
And it's kind of a perfect Christmas movie as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's the other thing.
It's
like,
in the rotation now with my family.
Like, I would feel bad for like people that set out to make a perfect Christmas movie. It's like, he wasn't even trying. And he made the best one. I would be upset.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to another excellent movie that you've seen on screen, another favorite of mine. In the 2000 movie Center Stage, directed by Nicholas Hayter, was this actress Zoe Saldana's film debut?
I don't know, but I feel like it must have been because I can't think of anything for her before it. I'm a big fan.
You are right. True. She was cast in Center Stage. She was unknown. She had just gotten her SAG card. Though she hadn't danced in years, she actually committed to being a ballerina on screen and was apparently one of the best ones. Yeah. But there's like real ballerinas in that movie too, like Sasha and the lead. Yeah, no, they are quite good. Quite good. Oh, yeah, and Ethan. Yeah. Like, of course, like so the most realist fashion person. Talk to me about your love of Center Stage, because this is another one that I just obsessed over.
Center Stage is just like one of those movies that I found at just the right time for where I was in my life, you know, as a teenager, dancing in the New York City, sort of obsessed with what post-high school independence would look and feel like. And it is all of those things. And really also like a little bit badass. It's like, this is what the dance world is really like. So obviously me and my ballet clique, we were just watching that on repeat.
I would imagine. That was like if you were a cheerleader and Bring It On.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe telling the truth on some things that people
or like a gymnast for Stick It. I feel like all of those kind of hit right
at the same time. And they were made for you.
That's right.
Excellent.
Working as a dancer in an ensemble, it's like working on a movie, which really does feel like a team sport in a lot of ways. Even though dance is sort of like a solo discipline. But yeah, I love dance and I feel it in everything I do. I don't know, it's really corny. But
no, that is not corny.
Yeah, I'm bringing it to the work.
No, that is inspirational, because I can't do any of that. And it's, again, speaks to dedication, which I think is another transferable one.
Thanks.
We already talked about a few of the other examples of movies like The Holdovers, where you purchase it as a completed film as opposed to the ones that you shepherd from the script phase and sometimes even earlier. I'd love to hear about some of those titles, ones where you really got to invest in a filmmaker before they even, you know, set foot on set with whatever you ended up making with them.
Yeah, totally. It's pretty cool at Focus. There's a portion of the slate that is really dedicated towards breaking new talent. And so our team, you know, we're empowered to go and discover those, you know, emerging voices. A film that is really close to my heart is 1001. It's Avi Rockwell's debut. You know, we're big fans with her from the very beginning. I love all of her short films. And so we were tracking, as we like to say. And I remember the first time I met Avi, we got a coffee at Chelsea Market, I think. And it was a zoo around us, and we were both dissecting Last Black Man in San Francisco. You know, she had to go do her thing and write, and she was in the labs with Sundance, same lab as Kobe, Libby. And then we reconnected after she'd written the script and WME had sort of officially taken it out. And I remember we had a pitch meeting talking about 1001. It was just like a wonderful conversation. I mean, all pitches are really fun, generally speaking. That was one where it had kind of come back to us at that stage, AV with a script, producers in place. But essentially we took it on then and built it together and cast and crewed it together and saw it through its entire production process through its release, which was honestly, you know, had its challenges, and it was a COVID movie. So it was, you know, really hard, but totally worthy. It was so great. I love that film.
And award worthy, because it got both a Gotham and an Independent Spirit Award, correct? For Avi and her work.
Yeah. And it was one of those cool moments where, you know, you identify someone like Avi where they're at in their career, and you know that you're sort of about to launch this generational filmmaker, which is really exciting. And that was what we did. And 1001, obviously, I have like a relationship with New York City, and I kind of identify with that in a specific way. Of course, there's like this tapestry of gentrification that really guides the narrative, but really like the journey of this woman, Inez. I'm thinking back to the pitch, and we talked a lot about, because we always like take steps back and think about things thematically. And, you know, what it all means for the filmmaker, because we're so filmmaker driven. And I remember in the conversation, we talked a bit about how we define home. And it was making me think of all these sort of contemporary architects of Black fiction and storytelling. And so I was thinking about like Toni Morrison's essay on how we define home for a group of people who generationally don't necessarily like have a home as an artifact that passes down.
Yeah.
It was just like such a wonderful way to think about that movie and how it could sort of reach people in the way that these movies do.
Yeah.
These sort of smaller, beautiful things.
So you mentioned AV, and that same Sundance Lab was the one that Kobe, who did American Society of Magical Negroes. They were both inside that one. Is that correct?
Yeah, they were in a lab together. But I'd met them separately. It was funny. So my friend Rachel Jacobs, who was producing with Sight Unseen at the time, before the lab had called me and she pitched this concept. She was like, "You're going to think I'm crazy, but we're friends and I understand you and like, I think you're going to get it." So she'd sort of loosely pitched the log line and I was like, that does sound hilarious and brilliant, but also it's like, you know, I have a million questions. She was like, "Well, just wait, we'll come back when we're ready." And so that one had also come back through UTA with Kobe and Sight Unseen as a script. So I guess you could say we bought it as a spec, but we're tracking into it and had, you know, done a general with Kobe out of that. And you just have to meet that guy.
Yeah.
He's so wonderful and smart and funny. But anyways, yeah, so that had come sort of the same way and we kind of built it together in the same way with him and Sight Unseen, you know, in a totally different way and genre. That movie, I think, also speaks to, you know, everybody, but also a specific group of people at the same time. It's like you can read the satire differently and like the intentions in it, you know, however you kind of can access that.
Yeah.
I think my only advice for people who haven't seen it's like go into it very obviously open-minded because it is a really big-hearted thing. And even when it has its sharp commentary, it's actually, you're supposed to laugh. Like you have permission to laugh, you know?
I love that.
But yeah, that film, I really relate to Aaron in a lot of ways professionally. Not that like I love the people that I work with. It's like a wonderful work environment, but
also just the industry as a whole. Like
yeah, the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
Right.
So you mentioned your friend Rachel, who's a producer at Sight Unseen, which is a production house, right? And they had this as a speculative script. But I love the idea that she calls you up and is like, "All right, I have something for you." Like, how does that pitch go? Like, what does she actually say? What's the quote? What's the log line?
I'm trying to remember her exact words because I won't be able to do them justice. And it pretty much is what the log line is today. But she was like, "It's a movie about a young Black artist who enters a magical Black society that's underground. And they are literal wizards who do magic to protect white people, to ultimately protect Black people." And Rachel's great. Y'all should get to know her. She could say that way better than I could.
I love that.
But that was the pitch. That's kind of how that goes when you have relationships with producers and they're kind of giving you a heads up about something. It's usually pretty quick and
dirty.
Yeah,
Get it to it. I love that.
Yeah.
Obviously, the type of representation that you talk about in films like 1001 and American Society of Magical Negroes, all of those really speak to representation. Has there been a singular film or a singular moment where you've seen yourself sort of reflected on screen, or what film has been closest to that for you?
I mean, the truth is there isn't, and I don't necessarily say that sadly, but there just isn't. But of course, I can identify with people and characters in movies that I love, but it's little pieces of them versus somebody as like a whole representation of me as a whole. I have a big family. I have a lot of siblings close in age. I think we were sort of geared towards comedies. I think there's like sort of an affinity for satire and subversion in my house. But yeah, big comedies. And then on the other side of that, like, you know, the big Amblin type movies that are just family friendly movies. A film that had a really big impact on me early on, I remember it was like Kung Fu Hustle. I thought that was the funniest thing ever. And also the first time I felt like I watched a movie and understood filmmaking for filmmaking and like all the sort of tricks of it.
Yeah.
Even in that movie, when for people who don't know it, there are these two landlords who oversee this like village and they're protecting them. And obviously they're fighting bad guys and like dancing on swords and stuff.
Yep.
I don't know. The community of that place reminded me of the community of my home. And that's like a Chinese village.
I think that's the beauty of cinema.
Yeah.
Is what you're talking about. Is like it can feel on paper completely foreign, but in actuality, it's right within what you live in.
Yeah.
This is what's great. Regardless of how well you did, now you get the chance to turn the tables on me, because inside here, we're going to step into the world of Universal. I'm going to hand this over to you. If you could pop that open. Inside here, it's basically the quote game. Careful there. Perfect. So you read out the quote, and hopefully, if I am worth my salt, I should be able to guess what movie it is. And I've already set myself up for failure. Here we go.
Okay, here we go. A hobby should pass the time, not fill it.
A hobby should pass the time, not fill it.
Psycho, Jaws, or The Birds?
Psycho, I guess.
You got
it. Psycho.
Quote 2. We're all going to die, and they're never going to give me my license.
Oh, yes.
So it's The Fate of the Furious, or it's E.T., or it's The Little Rascals.
It's E.T. Definitely. And they're never going to give me my license. That is so great.
Oh, this one I think you're going to get fast. Okay, so the day has dawned and the weather proves conclusively that God is a monarchist. And so this is either Pride and Prejudice, 1917, or Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey.
Heck yeah,
Downton
Lady
Abbey,
Mary.
definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Quote 4. We're all pretty bizarre. Some of us are just better at hiding it. That's all.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so it's either 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, or Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
We're all bizarre. Some of us are better at hiding it. I guess that is 16 Candles? Or is it
Breakfast Club?
Is it Breakfast Club?
It's The Breakfast Club.
Oh.
It feels like it would also be 16. I bet
They're
they
all
say a
John
version
Hughes,
of
though,
that.
man. I got that one wrong. That's okay, though. I didn't accuse it of being Cameron Crowe, and I knew it was not that, so I'm all right with that. Thank you for that. I did all right. I feel passable on that one.
We got A's.
We did. We
Yeah.
definitely did.
We're
And
like
that's
summa
all.
cum laude or something, whatever.
Love it. Michelle, it was so great chatting with you. Thank you so much for telling us about all the stuff you've seen on screen and for joining us today. Hopefully we can talk again soon.
Yeah, that'd be great. This was really fun. Thanks, everyone.